Am I sure I want to do this? Yeah, I want to do this. Yes, you saw the title correctly. I stand by everything I say in this video right here. This is my top controversial JRPG takes. Now, see, listen, I am a positive channel. I love giving every fan base their due, but I want to shake things up a little bit. Everybody's always doing a top 10 or top anticipated. I want to shake things up and tell you guys some of my deepest, darkest, taboo JRPG thoughts. Now, some of these I'm going to put some disclaimers before because I'm not trying to attack anybody, but let's jump right into the video. We're starting the new year off juicy, nice, and I just can't wait to see some of you guys' comments on some of this stuff I say. All right. I know you want to know. I know you want me to explain myself, and you're going to check my JRPG card. Let's see if my card really needs some checking. Let's have some fun and jump into the video, man. So first, starting off my little nasty list, I want you guys to know I am not really a Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest fan, but we're going to jump over to Final Fantasy, and I'm just going to explain to you guys why it just doesn't really appeal to me, at least in its current state. Now, starting off with the Final Fantasy franchise, I made the mistake of making 13 my first true real Final Fantasy experience, and as you guys told me in one of my last videos, that was absolutely a mistake because you guys were telling me that this game does not correctly represent the franchise as a whole. But some of my issues with Final Fantasy even date back to the earlier days. I've just really never been interested in their characters, in their stories, and while they are certainly pioneers of the JRPG genre, nothing about Final Fantasy ever truly just grasped me. Even growing up as a child, I was just never really interested in these games. I don't know if it was just a little bit too over dramatic. I don't know if it was all the pretty boys. I just don't know what it was exactly. I just was never truly interested in Final Fantasy the way that I should have been, especially with the series being such a pioneer when it comes to this genre and what this series has done for JRPGs as a whole. So I'm not tearing it down, it's just not for me. I really respect it and I appreciate it for what it has done and what it continues to do for this genre, but it's just not for me. None of the games are really for me. I've tried and dabbled a few here and there, but as I said, 13 was my first real experience that I bought and tried. I just did not like it, but I do know that I made a mistake. So maybe one day I'll go back and try Final Fantasy 6 or truly try 7 like you guys were telling me to do, but the series or the franchise as a whole, it just doesn't really interest me. I don't know why. I'm just not attracted to maybe the mellow, over dramatic themes, and it's just not my style. I also struggle to really like the Final Fantasy battle system. The battle system is just not one of my favorite as it keeps changing from game to game, which is fine, but it's not consistent. Each Final Fantasy have vastly such different battle systems. It's hard for me to really get a grasp on which one actually appeals to me. They're jumping from action to turn-based. It's just too much, and I just appreciate Final Fantasy more, recognizing it as a pioneer rather than consuming it as a franchise that I actually enjoy and like. So may the dislikes roll, but Final Fantasy is just a franchise that I am not into, and I don't see myself into, especially with 16 also kind of being more of what I'm saying. It's just not for me. All the way from 16 to 15 to 13 to 9, they just don't really appeal to me. So maybe one day I can give Final Fantasy a real chance, but for right now, this franchise does not appeal to me. Oh, I have to admit, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth looks pretty darn fire, so I might actually check that game out. Who knows? Another long-standing legacy franchise that I've just struggled to get into is also Dragon Quest. I know this might come to a surprise for some people, but maybe it's the art style, maybe it's the gameplay, maybe it's the graphics. I don't know what it is, but I've just really never been interested in this series. Like Final Fantasy, I've dabbled in a few over the years, but none of them have really ever managed to capture my attention. Now, the one here on the screen, I know this one was very popular. I remember playing it back in the day on the PS2 when it was at its peak, and I just wasn't that impressed. You know, it wasn't a bad game, but it just really couldn't grasp my attention, and I just couldn't stay interested long enough to truly really care about this franchise or this game. Maybe also the Dragon Ball Z art style is very turn-offish to me because I just know it so well. Akira Toriyama's art style, it just reminds me of Dragon Ball so much. It's hard for me to actually put that aside and play these games. That might be really, really petty, so you guys can actually get on me for that. I know that's petty, but I actually played these games. I want to let you guys know I've played these games, but they just really didn't do it for me. Good solid games though. I can understand why they're legendary. I can understand why they have huge fan bases, and I truly hope they continue to come out for all of their fans. But yes, you guys should know that I'm not really a Dragon Quest fan, man. It's just not for me. Maybe I'll get into it someday, but right now it's just not my style. Ooh-wee, I'm gonna catch some heat for this one, guys. Yes, you see it on the screen. I do think the Earthbound games are slightly overrated. Now that's according to my own scale, because you know, I've heard you guys talk about these games so long over the years, and I finally tried them, and you know, maybe it's my age, maybe it's just not for me. I didn't quite understand or get the appeal when I actually played these games. They just really didn't do anything for me at all. The battle system was just not my style. I didn't like the theme of the story, honestly. It just really wasn't my take and my style. Now, can I see why they're such revered games? In a way, yes, I can, but I do think they're slightly overrated. I know there are some Nintendo fans out there who are going to dislike this video to oblivion. But I'm not exactly ragging on the games or the franchises. They're just not for me. I got acquainted to these characters through Smash Bros, of course, and then it prompted me to go back and check it out since I'm a huge JRPG buff. I love the little whimsical nature. I love the simplicity of it. It was cool. They were all cool. But do I think they're the top JRPGs of all time? No, man, just not in my opinion. No, I do think they're held up slightly a little bit to an overrated level. And when I finally got a chance to go back and see what all the hype was about, I have to say I was left pretty disappointed. So I know this is a nasty take, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of heat for this one. But again, I'm not ragging on these games, but it's okay if you dislike it, man. I didn't want you guys to like this video all the way. So just know that it's okay to have difference of opinions, but Earthbound, Mother Series, or whatever it's called, it just really wasn't for me. When I finally played them, I was not that impressed. I'm sorry, guys. Now this right here kind of hurts, because this is a series that is near and dear to my heart, but I gotta keep it real. Tales of Symphonia is usually held as the gold standard for the Tales of series, and honestly, I could not disagree more. The game was cool, it was decent, it was nice, it had some good voice acting. I know it was on the GameCube, and I know it was one of America's first exposure to the Tales of series, and it really made waves back in 2003-ish when it came out for the GameCube and just did really well with critics and even GameCube fans alike. But man, it is not my gold standard of Tales of games, and let me tell you why. In my personal opinion, I do not think the battle system has aged that well. Tales' battle system now uses more of the three-dimensional and 3D aspects, as we can see in games like Tales of Arise and Tales of Vesperia, letting you use the free roam technique. However, this game is still kind of linear, and it's a 3D game that kind of plays like a 2D game. And don't get me wrong, the battle system is still pretty solid, but I just think the series has advanced so much further beyond where this is at. So when people come in talking about this is the gold standard, it might give the wrong impression to newcomers. Not only that, I don't think the graphics has aged that well, despite how many times they keep trying to remaster this game or re-release this game, which they need to stop doing. Part of the reason I have it on this list is because the amount of times that Bandai Namco has remastered Tales of Symphonia. I am honestly sick of seeing it, because there are so many other Tales of games that deserve to be remastered and reimagined and re-brought back into the public eye. And I just think that this is where Symphonia gets overrated quite a bit, because it is not the only Tales of game out there that is of quality. There are other Tales of games that deserve a little bit more spotlight, yet this game just continues to come out. So I think we just need a break from Symphonia. It even got a sequel that was honestly one of the worst JRPGs I've ever played. Yeah, there's a lot I can say about Symphonia. I do appreciate it for what it's done for the franchise, but I do think it's slightly overrated when it comes to its impact and how well it is for the Tales of franchise. But I respect it. I do respect it. I just don't agree with what its place hold in a lot of people's eyes. I just don't really agree with that. I think it's a decent JRPG. I think it's a decent game, but none of the characters really grasp me. Lloyd is okay as a protagonist. I'm just not the biggest Symphonia fan. Now, Tales of Vesperia, on the other hand, now listen, I know some of you guys probably feel the way about Vesperia that I feel about Symphonia. But come on, Tales of Vesperia is beautiful. Those beautiful cel shaded graphics. It was one of those pioneering JRPGs that came out in the dark ages of the Xbox 360 and PS3. I just think Tales of Vesperia is the true entry point for a lot of newcomers because it just has a bit of everything. It has the great graphics, it has a great gameplay. I do think the story is a little bit on the weaker side, but man, Tales of Vesperia is where it's at, okay? And Tales of Arise is a good entry. It's a great entry actually for mainstream appeal, but Tales of Vesperia will always have a place in my heart, despite how dated it might even be right now. But yeah, going back to Symphonia, I do think Symphonia is a bit overrated, and I will stand by that, man, because other Tales of games need some shine. But Symphonia is decent for what it is. I'll give it that at least. Next, we're going to touch on Like a Dragon's new direction. Now listen, I have been a Yakuza fan since 2005, and like I said in my other video in which I caught a lot of heat and I got a lot of dislikes, I am currently not the happiest about Like a Dragon's direction. Now, it is done exceptionally well for the direction that it is in, but for me personally as a fan, yes guys, I gotta admit it's hard for me to let go of the old style. I'd also like to say this: I think the Yakuza series has been somewhat of a JRPG series long before they decided to actually turn it into a turn-based game. So I want to give the original games a lot of that love and respect too, because the Yakuza games had a lot of JRPG aspects already built into even the action games. It's just that now it's way more turn-based and they've changed the combat to represent that more of a traditional JRPG style of game. It's not that these games are particularly bad or that they're lacking quality. It's just not the direction I thought the series would go. However, I know tons of people are excited about this new direction for the Yakuza Like a Dragon series, and if you say anything like I'm saying now, you get disliked, you get isolated, and it's just kind of sad that you can't exactly speak your piece when it comes to these certain changes in a franchise that you have been enamored with and in love with for decades. It's just kind of crazy that I can't voice my opinion when it comes to that. I'm not saying these games are terrible. I'm not saying these games may be lacking quality. In fact, 8 looks really good, and it got my man Kiryu in there. He's back officially, you know, and it might even be his last game. So 8 is definitely pulling at my heartstrings. It's making me want to try it. I am having a hard time with the transition, man, and this is just me keeping it real. But I know that even me keeping it real still gets me a ton of dislikes. And people calling me a loser and things like that. That stuff doesn't bother me, because when you know how much you love a franchise in a series, man, the little stuff don't even bother you. But Yakuza's new direction, this may be taboo to say now because everybody loves it now. You cannot say anything bad about the JRPG aspects of Like a Dragon, or you're outcasted and you're just looked down upon. You know, it's kind of crazy that we're here in this series now. I've been representing Yakuza for years when you had to import it over from Japan just to play it. But yeah, that's this point. I don't really like the new direction, and as a JRPG series, it just comes off as like a Dragon Quest to me. So Dragon Quest, Persona, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's its own. So yeah, there's that too. I mean, I'll consider trying 8, but once again, I'll reluctantly try it, but I might give it a try this month. Who knows? Let's wait and see. You guys might see a review for it very soon. Who knows? Now, I know I'm going to catch a lot of heat for this one. This one is straight up nasty. Yes, in my opinion, Grandia 2 is miles above Grandia 1. Don't get me wrong, Grandia 1 is charming, has nice little cast of characters, music is quite amazing, and the adventure is just whimsical, nice and free. But Grandia 2, one of the best stories I ever played, battle system perfection, and characters that I actually truly cared about their journey and I cared about what they were going through. Ryudo is one of my favorite JRPG characters of all time, and I have to be honest, this is probably my top JRPG of all time. So I am extremely biased when it comes to Grandia 2. Now, Grandia 1 wasn't bad per se, but to me, the combat was unrefined. While it did have certain things that were better than Grandia 2, like the ability to have different characters characters use different weapons, I think it absolutely aced that. But I hated the dungeon design. The camera was so annoying, and I could not care about Justin and his sense of adventure really at all. I just really didn't care. He just kept talking about adventure every other second. I get he's a kid, but I really could not get into any of the characters because as soon as you would start to get to know them, they would leave the party, and the game started structuring itself around the characters coming and going, coming and going. And by the sense of it, I got about to the 75% mark, and I just didn't quite enjoy it that much anymore. Now, I do have a review of the game on my channel, so be sure to go check that out. The game is good. I am not saying the game is bad, but the dungeon design frustrated me. The characters just did not grasp me like everyone said that they would. If you're not really into Saturday morning cartoons, this game really doesn't hit that vibe for you. If you're wanting a more serious story with more weight and more tension, this game just didn't quite have that, at least until the very end. But it still does have a phenomenal soundtrack, great battle system. But to me, Grandia II, oh man, here we go. I'm about to go into it. Guys, listen. This is my favorite JRPG of all time, okay? And I'm quite biased when it comes to Grandia II. Beautiful story, absolutely beautiful soundtrack. I love almost every single character in this game, and the battle system is perhaps in the top 5 greatest JRPG battle systems of all time. Now, like I said, some of the same flaws of the first one are in there. Characters do come and go, but they kind of slowed that down a little bit, and it made a lot more sense story-wise why the characters would come and go. But I see a lot of people always say that the first Grandia is superior to 2, and I just have to ask you, where? I do not see it. From Ryudo to Elena to Millennia to Merrick to Rowan's character development to Tio's character development to the amazing soundtrack when you have to fight Melphis in the body parts of Valmar, and the epicness of the story and the adventure, not let alone this JRPG was a pioneer for the Sega Dreamcast. This JRPG was an absolutely phenomenal entry on that system, and to me it carries the Sega Dreamcast when it comes to JRPGs. That might be another controversial take, but Grandia 2 is in every single way better than Grandia 1 to me. The only area where Grandia 1 might be better is, like I said, allowing you to use different weapons for your characters. But other than that, I don't see an argument for how Grandia 1 is better than 2 at all. Please let me know in the comment section down below if you got a couple arguments for me or different perspectives so that we can have a conversation and see. But Grandia 2 for me is JRPG perfection, and I will always stand by that, and not even its predecessor can take that title away from it. Grandia 2 is miles ahead of Grandia 1. For me, Justin and Ryudo, there's no competition. Give me Ryudo every single day of the week, every single day of the year. Yes, I love Grandia 2 that much. So if you haven't checked out my top 10 JRPGs of all time, please be sure to go check out that video on my channel. It's one of my most popular videos because it's one of the most unique lists that you will ever see. So go check that out. But can anyone say Millennia? Oh man, I love me some Millennia. But okay, let me get away from Grandia 2 because I'll talk about this game all day. That's how much I love it. Go play it if you've never played it. It's on the Switch. Go have fun. You'll thank me later. Now, this one is not as much controversial as it is my personal opinion, but give me your top 5 battle systems versus my top 5, and I'm going to have Legend of Legaia series in there as one of the top 5 best JRPG battle systems I have ever played. I'm standing by that, and I will always stand by that. This game battle system is absolutely so unique, and I think it's just better than so many JRPG battle systems that I've played out there, including the likes of Final Fantasies and Dragon Quest and things of that nature. Yes, I told you this video is controversial, man. I just gotta keep it real though, guys. Legend of Legaia is one of the best underrated battle systems of all time. It's criminal how underrated this game's battle system is. It is up there amongst the top tier. So basically, you control limbs of your characters, and each option is a limb to control that you can eventually put into combos that will discover new arts and new moves as you put in the different combinations of limbs, like using the legs, using the arms, using the fist, and you can even equip weapons. Not to mention, I love the game's art style and direction when it goes into battles because it just feels epic. I also think that it is one of the best PS1 JRPGs of that era. Everybody always throw up Vagrant Stories and Legend of Dragoons and Final Fantasy VIIs. Well, to yours, I'll raise mine, and that is Legend of Legaia, man. This game is not perfect. It has a lot of flaws. It's repetitive at points, and honestly, it suffered from some, you can kind of tell, cut corners here and there. But if this game was fully fleshed out the way they meant it to be, even with the result that we got, this game is amazing. It's an amazing game. I cannot say that enough, man. This battle system, go check it out. You guys see it on the screen. One of the most unique battle systems you'll play. And while Part 2 definitely disappointed the mess out of me, it still have remnants of that amazing, awesome battle system that was present in the first game. If this game would have had more care and time taken with it, Part 2 would have been just as good as 1 because it still has the foundation for success that is this amazing battle system. Man, if only the Legend of Legaia series could come back. Sony, please do something, because this series needs to come back and people need to experience this amazing epic battle system. It reminds me of a fighting game, and maybe that's why it's just the perfect mix for me, because it mixes fighting game aspects with JRPG aspects, and it's just such a cool battle system to see. So yeah, Legend of Legaia series battle system in my top 5 battle systems of all time. You guys give me yours and let's debate. Now this is the moment where all my JRPG credibility goes out the window and my card is revoked. But regardless, I'll make my own card. I stand by this. Chrono Cross over Chrono Trigger all day. And this is not to incite a war or start a fan bait debate or anything like that. Guys, Chrono Cross is just a magical experience for me. I've never really understood the hate that this game continues to get. Yes, it may not be the sequel that Chrono Trigger fans wanted, but if you look at it as a separate entity and as a different entry on its own, it's such a beautiful and amazing game. It's so criminal how disrespected that Chrono Cross is within its own community. Chrono fans should just be Chrono fans. We should stick together. And even though Trigger is not my favorite, I don't go around, disregarding it and tearing it down and saying that it's terrible or anything like that and it's a terrible predecessor. It's just different games. They're different games with different attempts and different messages. For me, Chrono Cross is one of the most magical, best experiences of all time. I love the battle system. I love the characters, despite everyone saying that the characters are just there. I think the characters are all well done. I think the adventure that you go on in Chrono Cross is so much more magical than the adventure that you go on in Chrono Trigger. Yes, I'm standing by that. I played Chrono Trigger and it just wasn't really for me. I don't really understand the hype, and I think it is a little overrated. In comparison to Cross, I do think Chrono Trigger is a bit overrated. Again, I'm not really throwing no venom. I'm just standing up for my Chrono Cross, my beloved Chrono Cross. I'm standing up for Surge since he can't really talk. We all know Surge is a silent protagonist, so somebody got to speak for Surge. Somebody got to look out for old Surge. But no, man, on a real serious note, Chrono Cross is just so much more impactful. It was just so profound to me when I first played that game. It changed my entire JRPG experience, and I'm sure Trigger did that for folks as well. But man, when I got my hands on Trigger, it just did not hit me the same way that Cross hit me, man. Once again, I'm not really a fan of these games with the Akira Toriyama art style. That may be so petty, like I said earlier, for Dragon Quest, but it is what it is. I just don't really like this art style because it reminds me too much of an already established entity. So I love Cross for its art direction, its different variety of characters, and people are always talking about the recruitable characters
characters and how they had no personality and they have no significance on the story, well, that's just your opinion. For me, I love JRPGs that give you a big boasty roster of different characters. Actually, I love tight-knit RPGs, and I love RPGs that give you a lot of characters. Suikoden, Radiata Stories, Star Ocean, they give you a lot of characters, but then you got also tight-knit JRPGs that give you a certain amount of characters. But Cross, for me, does everything right. I don't even need to talk about the music. The music in and of itself belongs in video game museum, okay? The music is just so beautiful, and it's one of the pillars of Cross, but the story also hit me like no other. I love the story of Cross, and it can get a little bit confusing because you're dealing with time, so the story isn't perfect. You can love something and not call it perfection, guys. It's okay for your favorite thing to have flaws. Chrono Cross definitely has flaws. It is not a perfect game, but for me, when it comes to the debate of Chrono Cross versus Trigger, there is no hesitation. I am team Chrono Cross all day, but ultimately I am team Chrono. I wish the series would come back in a good way. I don't know why the series hasn't came back yet, but I will always go hard for Chrono Cross, and you guys can debate me and we can talk about it, but I'm not really going to change my opinion on this one. It's team Chrono Cross all day, and that's never going to change. So I know that's why y'all probably click this video to get on me, get mad at me, take my JRPG card, but guess what? My card is nice and laminated, and it is not going anywhere. Chrono Cross fans, unite on this video. All of y'all get in here right now, hit that like button, let me know how much Chrono Cross means to you. We need to stick together. It's hard out here for a Chrono Cross fan, all right? We got to speak up for Surge. But yeah, man, no hate against Trigger. It's all about Chrono Cross for me. Once again, the story, the music, the gameplay, the adventure that you go on, the characters that you meet, the themes that you learn. Chrono Cross is just a magical experience, and it will always be in my top 5 JRPGs of all time, and that includes it being more revered to me than Trigger when it comes to this in this sense. One day I'll probably do an in-depth video of Chrono Trigger and Cross together. You know what? I think I might make that video someday. I'll let y'all know when I actually get around to doing it so that I can go more in depth.
So there you have it. Those are some of my deepest, darkest, nasty JRPG thoughts and feelings. And to be honest, I think this is only a part 1. I'm going to do a part 2 in this series. So if you see other people starting to pop up with this, just know who came up with it first. No, I'm just playing. But no, I challenge every other JRPG content creator to go ahead, put yourself out there, man. Don't be afraid to share some of your thoughts. Part of having a platform is being real. So if you want to be real, I challenge my fellow JRPG content creators to be real. Make a video like this and y'all tag me in it and let me know if we can get a trend of realness started. Again, not bashing, not getting on fan bases, but just telling it like it honestly is. Let's be fair, guys. We all don't love every single JRPG in the world. There are some things that bother us. There are some franchises that we just simply don't like. And just be real with your audience, and I'm sure your audience will appreciate you and see how authentic you are that much more when you can tell the truth. That's what my channel's all about. I love y'all. If you made it this far, once again, I want you to say JRPGs are the greatest. JRPGs are the greatest if you made it this far to this point in the video. I love y'all. Thank you to my channel members. Thank you for pressing that join button. Thank you for liking this video, and thank you for watching the video. My first long form video of the year. I hope you enjoyed it. There's so many more coming, including a part 2 to this video. God bless you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Let me know your most controversial JRPG thoughts and secrets in the comment section below. I'll see you guys. Peace.